Coming up on the Wise Guy Sports Show, we're joined by the sporting Sith John Rice to look at the NBA and NHL conference finals, and we pay tribute to an auto racing legend. All that in the Wisey Translator as we celebrate episode 150 next. Well, Mike, open 151 tonight with basically the start of silly season in the NFL, and we got really silly with it back on Monday.
Yeah, and to call it silly as a follower and someone who has love for the Cleveland Browns is putting it mildly, James. I don't think this is silly. I think this is downright fucking stupid. As on Monday, the Cleveland Browns sent defensive stalwart, two-time Defensive Player of the Year, uh, number one overall pick in the 2017 draft, and really the face of the Cleveland Browns franchise, Myles Garrett, to the now looking for the other Infinity Stone Thanos, Los Angeles Rams. For three draft picks, only one of which was a first rounder. And of course, Jared Verse comes back to Cleveland as part of that deal. So the Browns, I think you'd mentioned this to me, they have the last two defensive rookies of the year on that defense now under first year head coach Todd Monken. And I will say this, James, as someone who has watched this franchise since its reinception in 1999 and was in Cleveland when they left after the 94 season, I firmly believe this is a new low point for this team, and that includes the 0-16 parade. They have now wasted the Hall of Fame careers of two players in the last 25.
Joe Thomas, I can agree with. Myles Garrett, I'm going to kind of respectfully disagree, and I don't have nearly as big a problem with this as somebody else did. And what kind of swayed me on this were two factors. Number one, the report that came out yesterday after the deal had been done, that the Rams has been messaging the Browns since the end of the season when free agency opened back in March, that they wanted Myles Garrett and they would not part with Jared Verse. And eventually Les Snead eventually made Jared Verse part of the deal. So even though the Browns got three draft picks, they got a 1, a 2, and a 3, but you also figure they got a two-time Pro Bowler in Verse coming back who is a 1, and he's only 25 years old. He still has 2 years left on his rookie contract. He's got a club option for a third now, so you still have him for 3 more years. He's only making about $4 million a year. So you're getting somebody, even though it's not the same position, he is still very good at getting at the quarterback. He is an edge rusher. You're never going to replace a Myles Garrett, but oh yeah, he's 5 years younger and he commands $35 million less. I don't have a problem with this.
And I understand the practical part of it, Jim. And you're absolutely right. The $35 million less, the 5 years younger. I agree with you. You're 100% correct. Jared Verse could be turned into a Miles-esque type piece on that defense, especially with Carson Schlesinger roam in the middle of the field at the linebacker. Graham had a decent rookie season, but he's really a run stuffer more than anything else. If Denzel Ward is healthy and you have a healthy secondary, yes, this defense won't take a huge step back.
Do not be surprised if you start seeing teams making calls about Denzel Ward in the coming weeks. This may not be the end of it.
Well, it may not be the end of it. And if you're going to go for a full rebuild, which I think right now the Browns are going to do for the, I don't know, 7th, 8th time?
I don't know
since
if
1999.
You want to call it that, but go ahead and finish your point and I'll follow up.
I'm excited for a full rebuild because I don't think you start Deshaun Watson. I think you then eat the money that you're not going to pay Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, and you get the fuck rid of him. So if that's what the end game here is for Andrew Berry, I'm all for it. That also would put to bed who wanted Denzel and or Deshaun and who didn't. But my point is this, Jim, and I understand we can respectfully disagree about the wasting of the two Hall of Fame careers between Joe Thomas and Myles Garrett. But I'm going to say this. This Browns team in Miles' year 2 or was it year 2, year 3? It was Miles'
I
year
want to say it was
4.
3.
Well, it was year 4 when they went to the playoffs.
Right.
And they really were a bad call from going to Orchard Park and playing Buffalo for the AFC Championship. We all know if that helmet to helmet hit is called, this is an entirely different franchise right now, and has been over the last several years. Jim, my problem with this is that once again, this franchise had a Hall of Fame player, a perennial All-Pro, perennial Pro Bowler, crazy impactful on one side of the ball, and they didn't do shit around him, Jim. They didn't. And there's nothing you can tell me that they did. And if they don't make the Deshaun Watson trade, is really $35 million going to matter for Miles if they're not stuck
That's
on that
one of the
fucking
things I've been
contract?
hearing a lot in the last day or two is that the Deshaun Watson trade now costs them Myles Garrett.
That's a legitimate opinion. And for all the Deshaun, uh, tungers that there are, that's the fact. A middling quarterback who demanded that kind of money and the moron owner who gave it to him cost you a Hall of Famer. Think about that. Think about that. That'd be like, let's go to other sports here. That'd be like them signing JR to a massive contract and it costing them LeBron. No disrespect to JR, but he's the first one that came to my mind. It'd be like the Gardos signing, I don't know, Stephen Kwan. No, he's not a douchebag. They don't have really douchebags anymore. Josh Naylor to a massive contract. Not that Naylor's a douchebag, but you see where I'm going with this. And it cost him Jose Ramirez.
There is a very close comparison just because Naylor had become increasingly kind of disgruntled. Garrett's wanted out for the last 2 years. You found a partner. You got him what he wanted. Verse is from Ohio. He's originally from Dayton, so it's a bit of a homecoming for him. Even though Cincinnati would certainly be a lot more hometown than anything. Um, but the more I think about it, and I was listening to Tony Rizzo yesterday, and they brought up a really good point now when they had, um, actually, yeah, it was yesterday in the wake of it. Shefty brought this up, Adam Schefter, that now in 27, 28, and 29, the Browns have 12 picks in the first 3 rounds over the next 3 years.
Well, that's wonderful because a franchise with the most phenomenal drafting resume that this one has had, it needs
The
more
last
picks.
2 years, if they get
Yeah,
if they hit on this year like they did last year, they've got 14 highly skilled players, and I want to say there's also going to be the better part of 17 starters that are either homegrown or they're going to be on first or second year contracts or certainly on rookie deals. If you look at it, you know, Judkins, um, Sanders, if in at the very least, if he's the starter, or if you're already plotting ahead to be manageable enough to get Deshaun off the books and go get your quarterback next year, whoever your two first rounders are going to be next year. You've got 3 strong receivers in the last couple of years. You just drafted 2 highly talented offensive linemen. You've now got Verse, who's a top 5 rusher in the league right now. The other part that people actually didn't notice and kind of got slipped in and under the cracks is now with the Garrett trade, they slipped the poison pill in there that if the Rams trade him to an AFC North rival, the Browns then would own the Rams first round pick that next year. So there could be another number 1 pick coming in here with that if that happens. Um, kind of like what the Micah Parsons to Green Bay deal. Like if Green Bay trades him, to the Giants, the Commanders, or the Eagles, they get a new number 1 out of this. But I'm as great as he's been with the franchise, you could definitely tell the writing was on the wall. He does a lot for the community, but there's also like he's really started to kind of distance himself with this. He's hanging out, with Chloe Kim a lot more. He's hanging out in LA a lot more. He's spending a lot more time over like in Australia in the off season. He already told them he wasn't coming to OTAs. Um, the fact that Les Snead took this kind of swing with this, um, I mean, they're one bad Matthew Stafford injury from having to go to Ty Simpson, and who knows what that pick's going to end up being. If you're the Browns and you're picking outside the top 10, if you're successful enough and you're in the middle of the pack, if you're a 5, 6, 7, 8 win team, now you've actually got ammunition for whatever that Rams pick is going to be able to move up and maybe get your quarterback. If you've got somebody, if you finish in the top 10, you've got that. And oh, yeah, you're going to get a back end of the first round pick, and then you're going to get a high second, kind of like with last year's draft with Schlesinger and them, where you had the 2 first round picks, and then you got somebody at the very very top of the second round. So this could actually end up working out well for them. It's going to be very, very bittersweet to see him, in royal and gold, what they call it soul. Um, but you know, at this point, it's I'm gonna use Rizzo's line. We're with you, win or tie, but you don't want to be here. Bye bye, and
But you see, and I'm going to say this, and with all due respect, obviously, to Uncle Rizzo, and to you, if you saw the franchise being fumbled and run like this, would you want to fucking stay?
I kind of I completely understand where you're going with this, but I mean, they had it with Baker. They move him, they kill the franchise, they set the franchise back years. But you also have to figure, by the time that contract was going to come up, he wasn't going to be here by the time that stadium was built. He's now past 30. You're never going to see guys kind of stay this consistent once they hit that mark. Versus being 25, you could squeeze 2, 3 extra years out of him. Maybe you could sign him. You're going to get a whole lot of extra flexibility when Deshaun comes off, next year. Even though you're still going to be paying dead money on that, you're still going to be able to get, first for if you get him for 20 mil, you're still saving 20 mil off what you were going to pay Garrett. If you move, Denzel, you're going to probably get a one, maybe a couple of twos for him. That's going to pull 20 million off. This team's in a very advantageous and very good young position. I think this actually is going to work out a lot better than people think. It's going to suck in the short term, but I think if you start kind of looking ahead to the future, Andrew Berry does it again. I honestly think that.
And you're not wrong. The problem is this franchise has sold the long term for 30 years. So let's spend the last couple minutes of this segment and let's talk about um, the NFL's worst case scenario. As it has been reported that Aaron Donald has been staying in shape and could possibly come back. Who in the fuck scores a touchdown with those two psychos rushing the passer?
And especially with the fact that they traded for Trent McDuffie and also have another starting cornerback. So the Rams went all out for it. Les Snead has made it abundantly clear between the McDuffie deal, the Garrett deal, and the Jalen Ramsey deal. He doesn't give a damn about first round picks with them.
No, because, and the thing is, with getting Ty Simpson, basically what you did was you set your franchise up that if you win this year, which I think they're really going for, you've already planned for Stafford to walk. And it's not a bad plan to have. I don't agree with Ty Simpson, me personally, but then again, Alabama quarterbacks and I've been wrong once about him in the last 15 years. So there's that. Jim, as
From a,
someone who
from
is
a
a
from a Rams standpoint, though, look at some of the young guys that they've or backups they brought into Stafford since they acquired him, in the Goff deal. If you had a choice between Garoppolo, Stetson Bennett, or Ty Simpson, I think you ride with Ty Simpson a lot more. I think you got a lot more confidence in him than the other two.
Yeah, and that's basically what they're looking at. But if he comes out of retirement, Jim, and he's even 80% of what he was, that's the most dominant defensive line in the game from the jump. God, Sam Darnold's going to lose his life.
Yeah, it's look at every quarterback in that division now. It's I mean, you had Darnold, you got Brissett, you got Brock Purdy. You have no idea what you're in for.
Bye bye.
Michael, we have come to the end of the road. The NBA Finals have started tonight, and in uh, really midway through Game One here in San Antonio, the Spurs hold a 13-point lead over the Knicks. Um, San Antonio going into Oklahoma City and quite honestly handling their business. What Oklahoma City only had two leads, Game Seven on their home floor, and the Knicks bulldozing the Cavaliers, when the going gets tough, quick. We talked about it on the air with John right before Memorial Day.
Yeah, it was the Eastern Conference Finals was definitely a disappointment. Both of us being Cavaliers fans, we were hoping for at least a good show out of it, and we didn't get it. And you know what? It's you can kill him for quitting, and you absolutely should. Um, I will say this, and then we can move on to the Western Conference because it was a more entertaining series. I don't think you blow it up. I think you add a missing piece or two. I don't know, something about a crown. Um, and I think you have good players on both the starting five and on the bench. I think you add to it. I think you blow it up anymore, you're just going to end up with a shell of what you had. And we talked about this. That was the first time they were in a conference final without the name James on the back of a jersey in 34 years. You blow it up, you could spend another 10 to 15 without having that. So be mad, be pissed, absolutely. Now go back and ask yourself the question: do you want to start over?
Yeah, but really last point here on the Cavs, is it really worth it to be able to go for it and have the Rams mentality to take one shot at it, knowing that you've got to go through Boston, you've got to go through a strong Knicks team. Atlanta's going to be dramatically improved, and oh yeah, Tyrese Halliburton's going to be back next year. So I mean, you've got upwards of three, four, five teams that you're going to have to battle through just by bringing in, your former savior back for what, maybe a year as a swan song?
Well, I mean, it also depends what else they do. Honestly, if that's the only move they make, then yeah, you may want to give it 1 year and then blow it up. But if they make other moves to go with it to strengthen the 6 through 12 in that roster, I don't see why you would blow it up. If you're good 6 through 12 and good 1 through 5, uh, you know, if you're top to bottom, a very, very good team. Not every team can say that. So it really depends on what else you do, especially losing Mike Gansey to Philly.
But moving on to the teams that are still alive, um, more surprising, the Knicks or the Spurs, in your opinion?
The Spurs, mostly because they went into the defending champions house with the two-time reigning MVP, and really not for nothing, outside of the bullshit phantom calls, they dominated that series. There was no answer for Wembanyama. There was not. De'Aaron Fox played very well. Castile played very well. This is a San Antonio Spurs team that's been built like the ones that Pop coached. Look, I got him in 6.
And for my money, the most surprising player over the course of the last week, and the rest of the country is just finding out about him, is Champagny.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got
he played
15
really
points
good.
to lead all scorers tonight.
Wow.
He's already got he's at 8 rebounds, 15 points in 20 minutes. As in game one, the Spurs are up 9 with about 5.5 to go in the quarter. Uh, Wemby is got 13 points and 4 rebounds. For the Knicks, Towns leads them with 12 and 8 rebounds. Um, but Jalen Brunson's a minus 15. He's 5 of 18 from the floor. This is not going to be a rollover and die Knicks team. This is um, this may actually it might be Carolina Hurricane syndrome, which we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes, um, of just the layoff that they had and the fact that the Knicks really breezed through out after game one. They breezed through the Eastern Conference Finals, especially game four, where Cleveland didn't even show up that we've talked about. Um, and San Antonio had to battle and battle and battle, even though they pulled away late in that game. Um, in game seven, it kind of makes you wonder um, what the series would have looked like if Oklahoma City went through. But if you think about it, the Spurs, their first time in the finals in 11 years, the Knicks' first time since '99, and considering they haven't won a title since before we were born, Michael.
1973. Look, no, the Knicks aren't going to roll over and die, and it's not going to be a rollover series like they had against the Cavs. I will say this: if you're telling me Karl Anthony Towns has 12 and 8 already, the Spurs better be a little bit worried.
As no sooner do I talk about it, than they've already cut the lead to 6 just that fast.
Yeah, if Brunson gets hot, which is basically what happened the entire Eastern Conference playoffs, that's going to be a tough road to hoe for these Spurs. I don't think De'Aaron Fox is the kind of player who can keep up defensively with Jalen Brunson. And if Wemby is not locking Cat down and it's the opposite, dude.
Different question. Let's go the opposite direction. Better storyline and take your bias out of it. Wemby getting there to the finals and possibly getting a ring a lot faster than we thought, or the Knicks finally breaking the curse after all those great teams over the years: Ewing, Starks, Marbury, Sprewell. Um, uh, you know, when they went there, some of the teams that they've had in recent years. We thought the Knicks were going to be here last year, and then they ran into the buzzsaw of Indiana. And let's be honest, if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't actually hurt his leg, in the conference finals against the Cavaliers, and tear his Achilles in the first half, Indiana likely wins the NBA championship in game 7 in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, most likely. Um, I think the bigger story would be the Knicks. And it's because it's 1973. It's been 53 years since they won a title. It would bring the Larry O'Brien Trophy back to the most famous arena in the world. It would basically, let's say it this way. San Antonio may have somebody on the bench. This is a Greg Popovich style team. They still run the same sets. They still run everything else. A championship in New York, first of all, be a nice story because 3 of those guys won a couple at Villanova together. Mike Brown, 19 years after his first visit to the NBA Finals as a head coach, which I think was his only one?
Against San Antonio.
Against San Antonio. With a far better roster this time. His 1-2 are Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. His 1-2 then was LeBron and Sasha Pavlovich.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it would validate Mike Brown's career. It would validate the Knicks going all in to get Cat. It would. The only bad thing about the Knicks winning, besides the fact that I can't stand them, is James Dolan would have a ring.
Yeah, and then we'd actually have to hear about, like, Stephen A. Smith for God knows how long, but take all that aside, um, just the cartwheels and backflips that half the people, especially the New York media, would do with this. If the Knicks win this thing, I don't know if I've got as big of a problem with it as a lot of other people do. I mean, it's not like
I
it's the Yankees. It's not like it's, the Patriots. It's not like, you know, the teams that you're absolutely prone to hate because the Knicks' resurgence in recent years, because 'cause they've been very middle of the road or pretty bad in the last few years, it's when the Knicks are good, it's good for basketball. It's like how it was with Chicago kinda getting back there after Michael left, and now they're an afterthought. Um, basketball is better when your blue bloods are better. Um for the Oklahoma Cities becoming, great, Memphis getting there, Denver being up there, it still kinda revolves around your New Yorks, your LAs, your Chicagos, your Bostons, sprinkle, Detroit getting back to where they were this year was very, very cool, even though the Cavaliers dispatched them, and they definitely played over their heads this year. Um, but this is actually where you've essentially got blue bloods. You've got the Knicks who have this long storied history, but haven't won anything since, Willis Reed, Dave DeBusschere, Bill Bradley, in that era against a Spurs team that really dominated the latter part of the 90s and the early 2000s with all of their,
Hey,
with the way that they were constructed.
yeah, you talked about the first time in 11 years that they've been in the finals. They won that championship. That was the 2014 finals. That's the year LeBron left San Antonio, go back to Cleveland.
Yep.
Which we have a discussion about a couple weeks from now, by the way, um, about what we want to do on a certain thing. But I will say this: I think San Antonio gets it done. Um, it'll be a great story for Wemby, great for De'Aaron Fox, who was in that Sacramento hole for a long time. Um, so yeah, I think this is going to go San Antonio's way. Let's see what happens. Um, Jim, who do you like in the series?
I kind of like the Knicks with this, but I could also see San Antonio. I got a feeling that this series is gonna go 6, maybe 7. I'd be highly shocked if it went anything less than that. I don't really have a problem with either because it's very different than how it was before that, um, you were groomed to hate the Knicks. You always wanted the Knicks to lose, and then you got sick and tired of San Antonio because of really how boring they played and the fact that they won it every other year. And Michael, we finished the primary content tonight as we've now started the Stanley Cup Finals. Game 1 is in the books, and the Vegas Golden Knights sweep Colorado, get to the get to the championship series. They're now matched up with the Carolina Hurricanes, who had another long layoff after handling Montreal pretty easily in 5 games. And then Vegas comes from behind twice to take game 1, and if Carolina were to win this series in 5, they actually would match, I believe it was the 1989 Oilers for the greatest run in the Stanley Cup Finals in history. They would finish 16 and 2. There have been a
Jeez.
couple of teams that went 16 and 4. Um, but Vegas goes out and gets it done in game 1, and this has kind of been a staple for Carolina. Dispatch your first opponent, and then rather handily lose game 1, go out and handle your business. Are we gonna see the same thing the rest of the way here, possibly get in the Stanley Cup goes to Raleigh?
I think so. They've just played too well. in the playoffs this year that to lose it. Plus, they're coming off they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years in a row to Florida, or was it just the one
It's
year?
relatively hilarious that they couldn't break through, and then they get a Montreal team that overachieved, lose game one handily, come back, spank Montreal in four straight, and then play Vegas pretty tight, surrender a couple of slim leads, and Vegas comes away with a 5-4 win. Game two would be tomorrow night. This is my personal opinion. This might be one of the most boring Stanley Cup finals I've seen in a long time, Michael.
I agree with you. I think these are the two teams no one wanted to see. We all wanted to see Colorado and Carolina, to be very honest with you. And if we couldn't see Colorado and Carolina, I think we wanted to see Montreal get in because we wanted to see a Canadian team get a cup at some point in time. I will say this. Nice face, dude.
Because you know who I'm going to
You don't want to
say
see
that everybody in America was hoping to see, and they got screwed, and then they
Edmonton.
got screwed again today, and I'll talk about that here in a minute.
Oh, Buffalo? Oh, yeah, they got boned.
Yeah.
Having said that, going back to the Canadian team thing, sorry. A lot of people like to see a Canadian team finally win a Stanley Cup because it's been so long. If it's going to be a Canadian team, for me, it's got to be Edmonton. I think, McDrysaddle's got to get one. But with no horse in the race, Jim, the farther Jack Eichel gets away from a cup, the better. So I'm pulling for Carolina to win the next four.
What douchey fucks?
Yes, Michael has made the soundboard.
That's amazing.
You just made the list.
Can I put let me put the context on that there. So I don't remember where Stephanie had gone, but they had said something stupid, and that was my response to her. And I said to Jim, I was like, can you put a clip on the soundboard? He goes, send it to me.
Well, if I could get OBS or Streamlabs to work properly, it would have actually come in a lot better than coming off of my cell phone.
That's very true. We'll get it together.
Hopefully that'll
I
be
have full
fixed
faith
in
and
the next
confidence in
week
you.
or two.
Yeah, I have full faith and confidence in you because you're a technical fucking genius. So Jim, I will give you the floor now, and you can discuss the host job that is the NHL Coach of the Year award.
Well, really quickly here, with going back to the Stanley Cup Finals, because we've still got more than half the time left in this segment. But the problem is you got Carolina, who always seems to go out and get the big name. One of the big pieces on the board in free agency was Brooks Orpik. It was Svechnikov, 1 year, and tries to kind of, I don't want to say buy their way into the finals, and then always ends up coming short in the playoffs. They've got the talent there to be able to get there this year. Um, and then you've got Vegas, who's the way that they subvert the cap, the um, the hiding guys out on long-term injury, aka Mark Stone in the playoffs the last couple of years. The Eichel scenario, firing Bruce Cassidy, and then John Tortorella comes in and immediately starts racking up fines for not meeting with the media after the games as his requirement. Um, Go 7-0-1 to end the regular season, gets Vegas the Pacific Division title. And then they get a relatively easy run to the playoffs. Through the playoffs, they dispatch Utah, who was overachieving. They take care of an overachieving Anaheim team, and then they run into a Colorado team that was banged up and out of gas for how, as great of a year as Colorado had to start. You really have to argue it was Buffalo and Vegas that had the strongest finishes. Um, in that regard. Um, but I think the problem that a lot of people have, and I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room, is Vegas's starting goaltender, Carter Hart, especially after the acquittal in the Hockey Canada sexual assault scandal from the end of last year. And Carolina fans let him have it. There were multiple times, and ABC could not do a goddamn thing about it, that you could hear the fans in the RBC Center, um, or it might even be the PNC Center. I'm not even sure what their arena is called anymore, chanting, "No means no. No means no. No means no," constantly. They were in Carter Hart's ear all night, and well deserved.
Yeah, agreed. We need to find someone to pay in Cleveland if Deshaun's a starter to do that.
You'll
So
probably end up hearing that if he's out there. I mean, I actually know, you know, the game where he got on, the game where he debuted and then tore his ACL against Washington. You were hearing that from the stands.
oh, good. I forgot about the goaltender thing, and I'm glad they got on him for that. That's definitely something that should have been gotten on him for. But with only 2 minutes or so left in the segment, Jim, what do you say we let you have the floor about the Coach of the Year thing? Because yes, I believe you are correct, and Lindy Ruff got hosed.
Yeah. The NHL's already started announcing the award winners. Um, we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Matthew Schaefer was he wasn't unanimous. He was the runaway winner of the Calder Trophy. Uh, Zach Werenski of the Columbus Blue Jackets, back I want to say on Monday, was named the Norris Trophy winner for the first time in his career, beating out two-time winner Cale Makar. Well deserved so. Um, and then the NHL basically turned the Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year honors into a participation in a legacy trophy when it was announced earlier this afternoon that the award was given to Tampa Bay Lightning head coach John Cooper over much more deserving coaches such as Rod Brind'Amour in Carolina, Jared Bednar in Colorado, and most importantly, Lindy Ruff in Buffalo. And I'm actually not trying to sound too much like a homer, but everything that we've heard all year, as much hockey as we talked on this show, and as much Buffalo as I crammed down everybody's throat, it was deserved. Buffalo was in last place in the Eastern Conference just prior to Christmas. And then you're trying to tell me John Cooper, who has a Hart Trophy finalist in Nikita Kucherov, a Vezina Trophy finalist in Andrei Vasilevsky, has Victor Hedman on his team, and perennially gets to the playoffs, gets eclipsed by Buffalo, loses the division, goes 1-3 against Buffalo in the regular season, and oh yeah, for the fourth year in a row, even though it's a regular season award, does not get out of the first round of the playoffs. I'm sorry, Tampa Bay has not been out of the first round of the playoffs since they lost in the finals to Colorado back in 2022. And you're going to sit there and tell me that Lindy Ruff, with the job that he did not win this award? Michael, I'm really believing that this was gifted to him because of the fact that he never won it, and it's compensation for losing the gold medal for Team Canada, which Lindy Ruff would have been an assistant coach on anyway.
Again, biased because of Buffalo and my feelings for the state I lived most of my life in. Lindy Ruff deserved that award. I don't agree with the legacy awards for single season awards. I think they're stupid. Look, Lindy Ruff had a better season. He had a better story. He had a better storyline. He brought Buffalo back to the playoffs for the first time since, my 25-year-old wasn't quite a teenager. So I agree with you. This was BS. Hardcore BS. Not that the guy from Tampa doesn't do a good job year in, year out, but you're right. He's got a cup. He's had he's had winning seasons on top of that. He's been in the playoffs almost every year. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, it might be the jam job of at least this millennium, really since 2000. I've seen a lot of bad decisions with awards. How could they make this that blatantly stupid of a decision? It makes absolutely no sense. He didn't have as many regular season wins. He didn't have as many overall wins. Again, he doesn't even win the division. Buffalo passed Tampa to win that division. And oh yeah, again, it goes back to Lindy Ruff had a 3-1 record over John Cooper and the Lightning, including 2 wins in Tampa late in the year during that series. And if you wanted to include the playoffs, I think Lindy Ruff wins it going away because of Buffalo winning their first round series and then going to 7 against Montreal. But we know that these are all regular season awards. There's no planet, and I understand it's voted on by the writers and the broadcasters. What are they thinking? Honestly, Mike, what are they thinking? Because in the NHL, probably more than any of the other major sports, you're penalized for having a team that far and away ahead of everybody else. That's why Jared Bednar wasn't going to win it with the Avalanche, because they were so light years ahead and they were the most talented team. Buffalo was not. Tampa, we knew was going to be there. Rod Brind'Amour in Carolina, we thought was going to be there. Nobody had Buffalo pegged like this. And with the job that he did this late in his career, coming back to Buffalo, that half the media, you and I included, were calling for his job before Christmas. And we thought he should have won this thing going away, and unanimously. And he finishes. I cannot wait to see when they actually show what the final voting was for this. If Lindy and Rod Brind'Amour don't finish both in the top 5, then basically this turns into a participation ribbon, because it loses all trophy qualifications and respectability.
I blame Gary Bettman.
It's very easy to do that. Extreme. I mean, the only other thing that I can actually think of, and this will be my last point on it, if we're going to give it to what guys did in the regular season and not so much the playoffs based off of their legacy, why didn't John Tortorella win it for going undefeated in his final 8 games after taking over after Bruce Cassidy got axed in Vegas? Be honest.
Because Tortorella's an asshole.
Right. Tortorella's living off that 2004 Cup with Tampa Bay, and everywhere he's gone, he's never lived up to it since.
He's an idiot.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the YZ Translator. It is the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. It is that time when James and I give each other names inside or outside of the sports world, and we give to you the first thing that pops into our sleep-deprived brains. James, I have read your mind for a few weeks running, and I do apologize in advance. I hope I didn't do it again. Because, whenever you call me names like that, it causes
Emotional damage.
so
Because
We are the wild and crazy guys.
And for those of you watching, this is take 3 because the first 2 failed.
and it's still funny because all you see is Steve Martin and Dan Aykroyd doing this. We got to play that for Rice. So Jim, your name in tonight's YZ Translator, and I hope to God I don't get called a dirty motherfucker again. Considering we're having pancakes tomorrow night for dinner, I'll be a pancake eating motherfucker, just not a dirty one.
what
Jim,
you say.
so I say. Your name in tonight's Wisey Translator is none other than Los Angeles Rams currently retired, but possibly coming out of retirement, stud defensive tackle Aaron Donald.
It's basically going to turn them into the Midnight Express with Sean McVay as Jim Cornette. Take your pick if you want, like Beautiful Bobby, Sweet Stan, Dennis Condrey, Randy Rhoads. It you're not going to be able to block them, but you still got to put the ball in the end zone. I don't have really a problem with it, but to be honest, the fact that Donald hasn't played in 3 years and is looking to come out of retirement, as a Rams fan, am I going to enjoy it? Yeah. Does it have the potential to completely fall flat? Absolutely.
I don't think it falls flat with Myles Garrett coming off the edge.
I agree, but it would basically be no different than Michael Strahan coming out of retirement, 3 years after winning a Super Bowl with the Giants. You don't have a guy that's that good, regardless of the condition that he's going to be in, come back and then you pair him up with somebody great. It would be like having Strahan retired, but more recently, and then coming out and pairing him up with Kayvon Thibodeau or Jalen Carter.
Fair enough. Who you got for
Michael,
me, bud?
You did not pick the same name that I had in mind because I'm going to go a lot kind of darker on the spectrum, so to speak. So your name in the YZ Translator from me tonight, as I think my audio is getting very quiet again, is very controversial and oft discussed, especially here in Cleveland right now. Quarterback Brendan Sorsby.
Why is when I hear his name, the story Kevin Pollak tells about Walter Matthau's funeral pop into my head?
Really?
With the picks for the
Knowing how
races
much
on the
I
back of
love
the
Kevin
program,
Pollak.
yeah. With the picks for that week's races, yeah, on the back thing. Dude, this guy was betting on everything. It wasn't just, the BS we talked about. He did bet on football. There's a double-edged sword to this. One, yes, you don't bet on football. You don't bet on the sport you're playing, none of it. But two, are FanDuel and DraftKings making money off the NCAA and the NFL? Yeah, they are. And vice versa. So get off your moral high horse. You don't have it anymore.
So we will come to you guys here next week. Hopefully, we will have all of these recording and audio issues fixed as I'm trying to get set up with OBS or Streamlabs or something. We're going to be reaching out to John Rice to be able to help me out with this here a little bit. But we will see you guys next week for episode 152. Everybody have yourselves a safe and happy night. We are going to be actually taking a little bit of time off here sometime in June as my oral surgery did not happen, so it's going to get pushed back to this month sometime. We'll elaborate more on that as it gets closer. For the Big Rican, Mike Martinez, I am Jim Cornetti. Everybody have yourselves a great rest of your day.
Take care, guys.